In this video, I'm going to be showing you part one of how we can draw a basic black and white still life of our basic geometric forms. So at the end of the video, you want to be able to produce something that looks like this. So you have all of your geometric forms drawn on the page, and you also have a strong composition. So when you hear me talk about strong composition, that has to do with the way that the artist arranges things on the page. And I've been telling you, those of you who have had for a few years, since you were little, always use the whole page. You never want to have things kind of scrunched in the middle like we do here. And you don't want to have them kind of stuck to the bottom of the page. You also don't want to have them too far to the left or too far to the right. We never want to have too much empty negative space when it's not balanced. So something like this would be a good composition. Now you could use the same type of drawing if you were drawing a physical still life in front of you that you could pick up, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to be showing you it off of a black and white photo just so that I can put it under the iPad easily. I can't really do that with a still life. Now I'm also going to be showing you how to draw this in Sharpie so it shows up well on your Chromebook, but I want you to do this in pencil and draw really light. Now, for things that I want to erase, like when I'm blocking in shapes, I'm going to show you with a purple Sharpie. You're not going to be doing this in purple Sharpie. This is just what you would, the things that you would erase. So, I want to start out by looking at my still life and kind of figuring out where things are placed. So, whenever I'm drawing a still life, I always start out by kind of looking at where things are placed and then creating or kind of drawing these little like tick marks to figure out where things are. So that's my cone. Then I want to look at my cylinder. My cylinder is a little bit higher up on the page. So I'm going to draw a little tick mark here. And then I want to look at where my sphere is placed. So that's up a little bit higher. That would be here. And then this kind of cubey box shape is placed a little bit lower on the page than my sphere. Okay, so we want to really look at placement when we're talking about still life. So now I can start drawing my forms. So I'm going to start out with my cone. And the way that you draw a cone, if you're not familiar with it, you want to start out by drawing a triangle shape. And then you're just going to curve the bottom, okay, almost like a smile, because the bottom of a cone is a circle, so that's why that would be curved. Now my next shape that I have, or my next form that I have, is my cylinder. And my cylinder is partially overlapped by my cone, so make sure that you're not showing the whole cylinder. So I know that my base is here at my tick mark. When you draw a cylinder, if you're not familiar with how to do that, you want to kind of do a rectangle shape. And just like the cone, because the base is a circle, it would be that curved line or that smile line, just like that. And you can see here there's some partial overlapping. And then my top would be an oval. So even though the top of a cylinder is a circle, because we're seeing it from the front, it gets what's called foreshortened, where it kind of squishes it and it turns into looking like it's an oval. Now, when I'm going to draw these, I want to do something called checking the relative size. So that means the size related to each other. So my cone is about 3/4 the height of my cylinder. So you can actually do this with your fingers. So let's check and make sure I drew it 3/4 of the height. That's pretty close. Okay, now if this was too short, I would go back in, erase it, make it taller. Same thing if it was too big. You want to always check your relative heights and sizes and things like that. So now I'm going to be moving on to my sphere, and I have my tick mark to show me that my sphere is located a little higher on the page than my cylinder. And the sphere, before it's shaded, it's just a circle. Okay, and one thing you could do before you draw is you could check how big that is compared to the cylinder, because you know your cylinder is the right height now. And the sphere is about half the height of the cylinder, so let's check this. 1, 2, good. If for some reason you drew it too small, go back in and draw it bigger, so you want to constantly be checking your proportions. Now I'm going to look at my cube. Now we're seeing the cube kind of turn on its side. It's also an open cube. And that's located a little bit lower than the sphere. So when we do this, we can kind of draw a line down here, and then it actually kind of comes up like a V, like there. Now this is also partially overlapped by the sphere and also the shadow from the sphere. So we're not going to see the whole thing there. Then your other side top has to be the same angle of the V. I notice some students when they do this, they wind up drawing it like this. They do the top right, and then they make the bottom straight across. You don't want to make it straight across like that. You want to make sure the V is up like that on both sides. Now from here, we can draw the side line of the box, and then the top would actually be kind of angled down, and this line would go straight down. So now I have all of my basic forms laid out on my page. If I did this in pencil, at this time I would go in and I would erase all of my tick marks, and then I would be ready to show the teacher to make sure the composition's good, and then you can move on to part 2 where I'm going to start to talk about some shading techniques.